what is this symptom telling us? Like, because pain, like severe pain right before your period, we don't need to necessarily treat that severe pain. We can like temporarily treat it, but why are you having that severe pain in the first place?
Welcome to The Discerning Mother, the podcast for Jesus-loving moms who want to tune out the noise and tune into God's design for motherhood. I'm Brigid, a board-certified women's health coach, holistic health practitioner, birth nerd, and homeschooling mom of 5. I help moms to heal their minds and bodies, trust their instincts, and embrace the beauty of the way God created them. Here we talk about birth, hormones, motherhood, faith, and anything else. Let's go. Welcome back to the Discerning Mother podcast. Today I am here with Colleen. I'm so excited to chat with her because this is a subject that I think I know about, but I actually don't really know that much about it. So I'm really excited to get her expertise and to hear what she has to say. Colleen is a Catholic wife and mother of 6 children ranging from 9 to 2 months. She has a master's degree in clinical herbalism and has been through a women's health coaching program. She lives outside of Murray, Nebraska, on a small acreage. And she did not grow up using holistic medicine or living a holistic lifestyle. And so I'm really excited to hear about that journey. So welcome to the show, Colleen.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. And so if you just want to go ahead and tell us a little bit more about you, especially this like not growing up in a holistic lifestyle. How in the world did you get to what you do now?
Yeah. I just grew up very traditional. You know, we went to the doctors for all of our child visits. We ate the normal food that normal people ate. And it wasn't until I had my second child and we were living out in the country. We still live in the country. But when we were living out there, I used to read a lot of books as I'm nursing a baby. You know, you're sitting forever when you have a newborn, and especially at night. I know it's probably not the best for sleep, but I would read when I was nursing her at night too. And I started to kind of just be drawn to these books that were on either alternative forms of living or just kind of explaining our food culture that we live in here in the US. And it's kind of just spiraled from there. But my first book that I read was The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. If you have like 20 hours to listen to it on tape, it's a very long book. I would recommend it. But, you know, it kind of just explained here in America, like what we're doing to our bodies, what we're receiving with all of our like depleted soils and anything that we're consuming. And it's just kind of gone from there. I met an herbalist that's kind of local to us, and she gave a little introduction class, and I just fell in love with it. So I was exploring other ways of how to learn about herbalism, and I stumbled upon a university that actually offered a master's degree in it. So, you know, I just kind of jumped in both feet in at the same time and said, let's just go for it.
Nice. That's so cool. And so what's your title exactly then?
Well, so herbalism in the US is kind of hard because there's no overarching authority that regulates any of it. So you can register as a registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild. I haven't done that, but you can technically call yourself whatever you want, to be honest. And there's also no like education requirements to call yourself anything.
So it's kind of similar to health coaching where there's not necessarily regulation around it, but there are programs. Like I went through a program that was accredited through the Board of Health and Wellness Coaches, which is overseen by the Board of Medical Examiners. So it's like, but there's nothing saying that you can't call yourself a health coach if you're not board certified. So it's similar to that maybe.
Yep, because I would call myself a health coach, and I haven't been board certified, but I've been through a health coaching program. So exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so I guess we'll start super basic. What is an herbalist?
Yeah. So an herbalist to me is anyone that works with plant medicine. And plant medicine can range actually from a lot of things. We're not just talking herbs. You can even work with culinary herbs and be an herbalist. But plant medicine can involve tree bark and mushrooms and fungi and berries. So when we say like herbs that we work with, it kind of just means the whole plant world. And we work with them medicinally.
Okay. And so I guess where my mind goes when I think of what you were just describing, it's like homeopathy, but those two things are not the same, right?
No, they're not the same. Homeopathy, from my understanding, I've not extensively studied it, but they take a part of a plant or like a specific chemical, and they'll extract it and use it in microdosing. Like an example I could think of right off the top of my head was for pain. Willow tree bark has a compound, an acidic compound in it that can help with pain. And that's actually where aspirin comes from originally, is a weeping or a white willow's tree bark. Homeopathy would take that plant compound, so it's still a plant compound, and extract it and just microdose that specific compound, where herbalism would take the whole tree bark and use it in the whole sense.
Okay, cool. And so what's the pro, I don't know if you know like the exact answer to this, but what's the pro con to using like the actual tree bark versus the microdosing?
Yeah. So to me, the pro is that it's the whole form. So just like when we eat food, when you eat your dinner, your protein is going to help you digest the calcium, and your blood sugar is not going to spike as high if you eat fiber. It kind of all works intricately together. That's my view on plants. So yes, I want that specific compound from the willow tree bark that will help with my pain, but it's kind of like a synergistic effect for the whole entire piece of tree bark. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. To me, God gave us these plants and he gave them to us and they're like perfect form, So start at the basic level of using what he gave us and then you go from there.
Yeah. Okay. And so what was the first thing that kind of shifted your mindset to getting into herbalism, especially because you didn't come from like a, I guess, quote, like crunchy-ish background? Like how in the world did you even get into this then?
I don't know if it was anything one specific. Like there's not some cool story that I can tell you that I was able to solve a problem with herbs and it changed my life, unfortunately. But I think just the more I learn, and the more I'm also in the country. So the more that I learn about what I specifically have here on my land and what it can do for me has just kind of created this culture that I love about my own life with herbalism. But yeah, I think I was just taking that one class, that like initial toe step in the water of the local herbal lady. I just went to her and she talked about what plants can do. And I was like, this is so cool. How many of these plants do I have right here? I have dandelions. Don't tell my husband, we shouldn't have dandelions in our lawn. But we have dandelions, we have nettle, we have red raspberry. Like it's all here. How awesome is that? And if we start as like, you look at like the root cause of everything, if we start at that, trying to treat it, and we treat it at the lowest form possible first, which would be those plants. That idea just got stuck in my mind, and I can't imagine not starting at the lowest level first with plants. Yeah,
no, that makes sense. And so I guess one question that came to mind, especially whenever you mentioned your husband, is like, if you didn't come from this sort of background, what did people in your family think of you whenever you told them that this was something that you were pursuing?
Yeah, well, I brought my mom along the way, so that's good. And my sister has pretty much jumped on the bandwagon as well.
Yeah.
So that's always nice to know that there's kind of a community there, that I'm not the outlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband's family, his mom, his mom did a lot of home remedies herself. She's one of 8, and they grew up in a small town. So her mother, it was all like the saltwater gargle when you have a sore throat and stuff. Yeah. So it's not, those things aren't foreign to her. So she appreciates that as well.
That's awesome. And so just because I'm looking outside and I see dandelions everywhere, even though we just cut the grass, what can you do with dandelions?
Yeah, first of all, you can eat the leaves. They're bitter, which we have bred so much of the bitterness out of our foods with all of the foods we eat today. So like apples used to be bitter as well. They're very sweet generally now. But bitterness in itself is phenomenal for your digestive system. So if you are planning on eating a higher fat meal or a larger meal, you used to always have your salad first, right? And that would have your arugula in it, which is also a bitter plant. Yeah. So when you even think of something bitter, your mouth starts to salivate, but that's not just happening in your mouth. It's actually happening in your whole entire digestive system. So your digestive system is preparing to receive all of these fats and carbs and everything else you're eating. So that's just like one benefit of dandelions. Liver health, it helps you detox, it helps your liver. It actually does a whole bunch of stuff. But right off the bat, if you want to go like munch on a dandelion leaf, go for it.
Okay, that's so cool. I've always seen like the dandelion cookies and like the dandelion tinctures and stuff like that. I've just never actually gone out and like picked them myself. Maybe I should.
Yeah, there's a way, and it's fun for kids too to make dandelion honey. I can't remember the exact recipe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that looks cool too. Cool, especially because my kids love honey. And yes, that would be cool. And so with herbalism, like what sort of, I guess, ailments can herbalism help?
A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, in the basic form, a lot. When you look at herbalism, though, you kind of think long term. So an herb, sure, that willowbark might help your pain in the short term, but it's not going to be like popping an ibuprofen, unfortunately. I wish it could be. But when we think long term, we think metabolic health or sleep health or stress, like stress that women and moms face on a daily basis. Herbs really shine when we look long term. Because the way I think about them, this is probably not like the scientific way to think about it, but so say the example of stress, like my nervous system. My nervous system is frayed and rattled. I'm going to take this herb over the course of a couple months, and that herb's specific compounds are going to just be nourishing towards my nervous system. So will I still feel stress? Absolutely. But my cup that I can hold the stress in is going to be a little bit bigger before it overflows, because I'm feeding it the nutrients. I'm giving my nervous system what it needs in terms of like love and support, essentially, through the herb. But, the chemical compounds are helping with that.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And so my mind, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my mind, whenever you're talking about like the stress and the herbs, went to like ashwagandha, because I feel like that's pretty trendy right now. Is that, would that like fall within herbalism? Maybe can you give some like common herbs that people might know of?
Yeah, so ashwagandha is a huge trendy herb right now. I think it was actually the like second selling herb in all the United States this last year.
Wow.
The amount that was sold commercially. But for good reason, though. It's not like it's a bad herb. It really supports your adrenal function, and it can help with stress and anxiety and also fatigue. So it is kind of one of those heavy hitter herbs. It's called an adaptogenic herb, which is what we think of when we look at stress support. So like I said, an adaptogenic herb is really something that helps the body cope with stress and improves your like nutrient absorption and retention, just so your cup can be bigger, before it overflows. You might have an 8-ounce cup before adaptogenic herbs, and then you start taking some ashwagandha and you have a 10-ounce cup. So there's that. Rhodiola is another one. I can never say that one. There's so many S's in it. Schisandra is another adaptogenic herb. And they all do like slightly different things. So that is why if you are interested, herbs aren't necessarily really going to hurt you if you just take them, but working with an herbalist is always a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. And so with ashwagandha, I've heard some people who say that they take it and it actually makes them like jittery and like not calm. So what's that about?
Yeah. Unfortunately, just like with anything, people can have the opposite reaction to it than intended. Yeah. Everyone is so bio-individual and has different reactions to every food and medicine that they take. Sometimes it's just like a testing game you play, let's try ashwagandha, and if it works, great. If it makes you feel jittery, it's not the herb for you. Let's look at different ones.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because again, this woman has PCOS, and so she's taking it she took it to try to help with all of those symptoms, and she said it actually made her feel like worse because she felt like she was like on edge all the time then, and so she ended up stopping it, but she was hoping that would be the thing that would really help all of her other symptoms that she was experiencing. And so
for someone like that might be jittery with ashwagandha, I would say like maybe look into the functional mushroom route. So there's so many mushrooms that are adaptogenic, and they also are like phenomenal for your immune system. So especially people that get sick often with it, but like a functional mushroom, maybe moving away from like the plants and going fungi. In that case.
So what is a functional mushroom?
A functional mushroom is just anything that's like medicinal, like a mushroom that can be a medicinal mushroom as well. So you have like lion's mane.
Okay. My husband takes that.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if it was like a totally different thing or if it was just, okay. And so one thing that is always like kind of made me think about, like, I'm always trying to think of this is like, what are your go-to remedies for stress, anxiety, burnout? And I know you said that these are like long-term. It's not like a short, like it's not a quick fix. So what are some of your go-tos for that stress, anxiety, burnout, especially with moms?
Yeah, it's going to be a combination. So we would look at herbs that would benefit her. If ashwagandha is the one that we land on, ashwagandha is the one that we land on, but there's so many different adaptogenic herbs. And like I said, they're all kind of individualized, like they all have their own lane of who they can help. But But then we also look at like mineral rich nutrient herbs. And those would be your like nettle, which, like I said, grows like a weed around me. It's everywhere around me. But your nettle and your oat straw and your red raspberry leaf, like these are all super nutrient dense plants. So actually, I'm drinking a nettle oat straw tea right now as we're talking, because I am postpartum. So I am trying to get my minerals and my nutrients back. So I've been drinking it every single day since I've been postpartum. But for like the mom that's stressed, we can look at that adaptogenic herb and then we hit those nutrients hard. And it's like a long infusion. So my tea brewed for 8 hours before I drank it. I just pour it overnight and let it sit. So there's that. And then, we look at lifestyle factors, because as a burnout mom, there's a lot of things like, do we really have to say yes to everything we say yes to? And that's a big question that you have to ask yourself. Like, do I really need to sign up for snack mom duty and for every single softball game? There's things that in reality you can say no to. And then also free stuff. Go outside every single day in the morning. Like, look at that morning sun. In the midday, go outside for 5 minutes to get the sun on your skin. All of these things combined. So you have the herbs, you have the mineral support, you have the lifestyle changes, just working all of those synergistically. It really can help kind of restore that balance that a lot of women are looking for.
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely agree with everything you said. And whenever you're saying like the tea that you're drinking, because I work with a lot of pregnant moms, Nora tea, I'm sure you've heard of it, is very, very common. And so I actually have I get my big herbs from like mountain rose herbs and mix it all up. And like you said, do like a long infusion, or is that what it's called? Infusion?
Yeah, long infusion.
And so so that's one of the things that I like to do too. But I do not like the taste of tea, so it's kind of a struggle for me. Not gonna lie.
I've learned, when I first started getting into it, I was not a big tea drinker. And I also think it's kind of just how your taste buds you're born with. So I don't mind nettle leaf. I would much rather drink a nettle leaf, which to my husband, he says it tastes like dirt. So, I think it's just kind of finding what you're happy with. But herbs also don't just have to be tea. You can have them in capsules. So like nettle, while I say it's mineral rich in the tea form, and that's how I drink it, when it's encapsulated, it's freeze dried and encapsulated. It's wonderful for allergies, So taking it that way, and then you're also getting all the minerals from it as well when you take it for allergies. There's that, and then there's also tinctures. So there's many ways to take herbs if you're not a tea fan.
My husband's actually he loves tea, but it's easier sometimes to just take a tincture. So he's taking a stinging nettle, because I'm attempting to try to keep his hair, even though it's starting to thin a little bit. And I'm like, no, because his dad.
Yeah, well, there you go. Stinging nettle and nettle would be the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my favorite plant herb in general. And if I could give the world an herb, it would probably be nettle and chamomile tea. Combine those two together. They wouldn't taste very good together. But yeah.
Now, are there any herbs that you avoid for spiritual or moral reasons, or no?
No. I think God gave us all of these plants, and that's wonderful. Yeah. And we can use his natural remedies, his natural God's pharmacy. But I do think that there is a tendency for people's minds to go that way when you talk herbalism. And it just makes me sad. I'm trying to flip the script on that one. Be like, no, we can be Catholic. We can be Christian women and use these because God gave them to us. Like Adam and Eve were in a garden with all of these beautiful plants. But I do, you walk into a tea shop sometimes and you're like, oh, there's just some yucky stuff in here. It's just, it does make me sad.
Yes. And that's why I asked it, because I totally agree with you that God gave us all these things, and it's really our intention that makes them either teetering on the edge of maybe we shouldn't use them versus they're fine. And the same, my mind always goes to crystals, where it's God made crystals. They're beautiful, but this new age movement has really put this weird association with crystals. Now, crystals aren't bad, and inherently they're not bad because God created them. God doesn't create bad things. But again, it's this association and this whatever it is that they feel about crystals, that's the thing that makes it not good. And so that's why I was just curious, to open that doorway to talk about some of this more new agey type stuff, because I'm sure that in herbalism, there's probably more of the like hippie type that probably don't necessarily lean towards like the Catholic Christian side of things. So how was that to navigate through that, going through your education and everything like that?
It was interesting. Yeah. First of all, going like back into higher education in this day and age was kind of a little eye-opening to like begin with. And then to go, through a program that there was a lot of, I mean, I can probably name at least 3 of my classmates that would have identified as witches. And they did, like, very openly. So, and I was and it was a little hard too, because, like I said, even higher education in this day and age in the school was a little bit more like liberal leaning in a lot of things. So I was like, I want this knowledge because I think it will benefit women and it will benefit my family and me. But like, I'm also giving my money to this organization that I might not fully agree with. So that was kind of, that was hard in the process. But then also like sourcing your herbs is a huge thing. Like before you buy from any company, look through them, make sure that they don't support a lot of those new agey things, because so many tea companies do, unfortunately. So just knowing who you're giving money to.
It's so hard. And I actually had a conversation with our priest about this a few weeks ago, and not this specifically, but something related. And his response was actually like very, like kind of freeing to hear, where he said, like, unfortunately, we live in this very secular culture, and not even secular anymore. It's kind of teetering on like the other side of things. And he was like, we live in this culture, and so therefore we have to engage with this culture. And so that's where like the discernment and the really just bringing it all to God before making those decisions is important. But ultimately, like, we live here and now, so we're going to have to engage with the here and now. And it's not great. It's not what we want necessarily, but it's like where we are. So like you were saying, giving money to this organization, it's like the double-edged sword, where it's like you give them the money, but then you also earn this education, which then you can go out and help and like use it to bring Christ to other people who maybe didn't know that that was a thing. So it's like this really, like, God's always using everything for his good. And it's just a matter of kind of reframing that in our minds sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel sometimes the same way about yoga. Like, to me, I just want to stretch.
Yes.
But it is like some of the movements are rooted in, I can't even think of what religion it would be, but it's definitely not Christianity. Yeah. It's like some of the movements are worshiping these other gods traditionally. So you're like, I really just want to stretch. And I think it's my intention that I'm going here, but like, where's the line? And I'm sure that line is different for everyone.
Yeah, I know, it's definitely hard, because it is like they've kind of even hijacked stretching, where it's like,
yeah, exactly.
I want to like stretch my lower back, and if I do like a traditional like cat-cow thing, is that me worshiping the like some Hindu god or whatever? Like, no, that's not my intention. My intention is to stretch. I'm not saying that I go and like go to yoga class or anything like that, but I'm saying like you're allowed to stretch, and it's not like an association with something that's against a faith. And so, yeah, I think
there is that one. I think there is that one for yoga, but they say the rosary while they're doing the yoga moves.
Cool. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, they're wonderful. The owners of it, or the founders of it, are amazing. It's a great program. Really, really great. I actually have given talks to their leaders before, and it was so good. So, okay, cool. And so I guess let's stick along with this like healing philosophy and God and faith. And so how does your Catholic faith really influence the way that you do approach herbalism and using these herbs to help heal you and your family and your clients?
I think it just permeates pretty much everything that we do as Catholics, right? So if we're approaching any issue, like medical issue, with open curiosity and wondering how, first of all, why it's happening, like what is the root cause issue? We don't need to treat, I mean, sometimes when you treat the symptom, it does help the root cause, but if we look at that symptom, like what is this body that God created so it is not bad? Like your body is good and holy and perfect the way it is. So what is this symptom telling us? Like, because pain, like severe pain right before your period, we don't need to necessarily treat that severe pain. We can like temporarily treat it, but why are you having that severe pain in the first place? So I think viewing, first of all, the person in light of God created you and God created you holy, and then viewing the plants as God created them, God gave them to us. I think just working those two together, it kind of just creates an atmosphere of using what God intended us to do.
Yeah, no, I love that for sure. And again, it goes just back to that, like God created us and he also created this earth. And so therefore nothing on it is bad. It's just the intention. Like, again, going right back to it. And I don't know if there's an answer to this. So if not, that's totally fine. I'm just curious, are there any, or have you seen any like biblical or biblical or like traditions within the church that support for the use of herbs and healing?
Well, I mean, the first example I can think of to mind is when, you go back Old Testament, they talk about bitter herbs all the time. Especially like the angel of death in with Moses, the angel of death coming over, they used the lamb and they seasoned it with bitter herbs. So that's just their innate wisdom of using herbs to help with digestion, especially back then when you could have had like parasites more often, things like that. Those bitter herbs would have helped with that as well. So I think it's kind of like permeated throughout the Bible, not necessarily like, oh, this herb is great for this problem, but just like nature and God's wisdom within nature is there. So just like in the New Testament, Jesus, like healing the blind men, he didn't just touch them, he wiped their eyes with dirt. So while that's not an herb, it's just kind of speaking to that fact that like nature is God given and here for us to use.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. There's so much depth in the Bible and in the teachings of the church too. It's just, I'm sure you could look anywhere really and see so much.
Yeah. I've never looked into like the incense. I am sure there is like rooted reasoning for like that specific. I'm gonna have to look into that one, like specific incense for why we do.
Yes, for sure. Being Catholic, being Christian, have you encountered skepticism from other Catholics or other Christian or even other herbalists about this? And like, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily been skepticism because of the religion aspect, because I think that's easy to combat with the simple thought of like God giving us these herbs. I do think you have to say that sometimes though, because people don't outright think it, and they do think of that new agey stuff right away when it comes to herbalism. I think the skepticism more is just that like herbs don't work. Why would you use them? They're like the way lesser form than what we have now.
Yeah.
But like I said, going back to what I said before, we start at the lowest level possible. It's building blocks. If you have a problem, why wouldn't you start the basic part and, build from there? And if you end up in the doctor and going through modern medicine, you end up there. But at least you can say that you started with a more natural route to see if you can fix this problem. So I think that's kind of where more people are more skeptical of. I always like to use the example of like, well, what did you drink when you woke up this morning? Oh, did you drink some coffee? Hey, guess what? That's a plant. It helped you wake up.
That's so funny. That is so true. And I don't think people realize, they just like think coffee's coffee, not even like realizing like, where does coffee come from? It comes from a plant that grows in the ground. Like, yeah.
Yes.
It's so good.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so just from a practical standpoint, what herbs do you think every person should have in their home, like in their natural medicine cabinet, if you will?
Okay. I would say my biggest thing for like women, actually, and moms, and especially moms that don't get very much sleep, chamomile. Like chamomile is such a powerhouse herb. It's gentle enough that I could feed it to my 10-week-old if I needed to, and to help with their digestive. But it's powerful enough that it can really help, especially a mom. My one recommendation there would be drink a cup of chamomile tea at night before you go to bed. And I feel like I've said this on every podcast I've ever been on because I'm so passionate about, drink a cup of chamomile tea before you go to bed. It not only prepares your mind for sleep because it's slightly sedative. So, it'll calm you down a little bit. It'll calm your nervous system, but it's also anti-inflammatory in your gut. It's wonderful to your digestion. So you're not only preparing your body for sleep by drinking it, you're also preparing your digestive system to digest all that food that you eat over the day. So that would be like my one thing. Like if you were going to buy one herb today, go buy some chamomile tea. But outside of that, I could pick like 100 you could have in your cabinet. Chamomile tea for that, and then like a nettle or an oat straw for just those mineral qualities where we're lacking so many minerals and vitamins. in our diet these days, just from like a traditional diet, but also because our soil, unfortunately, is just so depleted at this point from our farming practices. We're not getting it. So if you're going to drink some tea, drink those mineral rich herbs throughout the day so you can give your body some of it. I like to think it's like a vitamin in a cup. Essentially, I'm drinking my vitamins when I drink my tea. There's that. For like little kids, especially when they're like snotty and coughy and they have those really like mucusy colds, I always say just, go grab a red onion and some garlic, chop them up finely and cover them with sugar. I know sugar's not the greatest for kids, but in this case, we're going to use it. And it's going to juice those onions and those garlic, which have super strong antimicrobial properties. And then feed the kids the syrup every couple hours. And they'll be able to fight those colds better because those antimicrobial properties in that are going to help fight the virus or the bacteria or whatever they have. So, there is little things, and hopefully everyone has a garlic and onion in their house to begin with anyways, so that you don't have to go out and buy that. Chamomile tea, garlic, onion. You're going to drink something in the day. Do you like a nettle, oat straw, red raspberry? I think that's where I would go.
So what do you do if you don't have a juicer, though? Because I don't have a juicer.
No, sorry. You don't juice it. The sugar itself will juice it. So you put your garlic and onion in a mason jar and cover it with the sugar. And then you can shake it every now and then. And in a couple of hours, it'll be liquid. The sugar will turn to liquid, pulling out the properties of the garlic and the onion. And and then you just strain out the chunks and give them the sugar. But yeah, that garlic, you know how you can have garlic breath for hours after you've eaten something really garlicky? That's, there's a component called allicin that's in garlic, and it is like a powerhouse for fighting anything, bacteria, viruses, all of that. And the only way your body expels it is through your lungs. So raw garlic, it cooks out. So you can't use cooked garlic, but raw garlic, especially for any lung airway problems in kids, is amazing.
So good to know. And so selfishly, I'm going to ask a question now. I mentioned to you before we got started recording that I'm starting to get another cold, even though I just had one 2 weeks ago. And I'm never sick this much. So I don't know what is happening. What should I do with having a sore throat that's starting, some cough? What's the first thing that you would do if you were me?
If I were you, I would have echinacea. So echinacea is a purple coneflower. It grows like a weed all over the U.S. It's that beautiful flower that has the leaves that kind of tear down. But so echinacea there's so many studies on it, scientifically proven that it will actually increase your white blood cell count in your body. So if you know you're getting sick, you just start heavy dosing echinacea and it'll kick your immune system into gear and it'll hopefully shorten that whole entire cold. But outside of that, elderberry and blueberries, all those things, the things that are really heavy, like antioxidants. Green tea is a really good antioxidant as well. But yeah. If you feel like you're getting sick, or if you're know that you're going to be flying in an airplane, I would have echinacea on hand.
One other question that I was reading through the survey, the little thingy that you sent in to me, apoptogenic. Can you explain what that means? Because I've heard that at other places, and I know what it means, but I'm sure a lot of people don't know what it means. So can you explain what apoptogenic, especially apoptogenic herbs, mean?
Yeah, so that would be going back to that ashwagandha and rhodiola. And so that's just any herb that works on your nervous system to calm your nervous system down. And they can work in two ways. It can either work on the mental side of your nervous system. So I'm very antsy and stressed. It can calm that down. Or it can work on it would still be your nervous system, but more going into your energy levels and your immune function. It can help just bolster both of those things to help stress not influence your energy levels as much, and also your immune system, because we all know that when we're stressed, we get sicker and we don't feel as active as we normally would. So that would be an apoptogenic herb.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so I always ask guests, what is the one final question? And so that final question is, what do you want the discerning mother to know?
I just want her to know that she is made in God's image. We are all made in God's image, and we can extend that out into nature and the plant world. God gave us all of these wonderful, beautiful things. He wants us to be in tune with him in nature. There's a reason that when we walk through a treed area, we feel calmer, just kind of getting in tune with all of these tools that God gave us that we've kind of forgotten about in our modern life. Just experiencing them, getting your kids out into nature too is such a wonderful experience. But yeah, just kind of having an open curiosity to let what we used to know and what we used to use, I think is what I would want her to know, that it's there. It's there for the taking.
Yeah, no, I love that. That curiosity is so important, and for a variety of things, whether you're talking about like in relationships, in health, like everything, that curiosity is so important. Okay, and so how can people find you if they want to learn more, work with you, or ask questions?
Yeah, I am on all the social media platforms. I'm sure will you link those in the show notes? I can, and our health coaching is my Instagram handle. But then Nurture-Roots is my website, and you can go on there and like schedule a call with me if you're interested in what I can offer. But I do like individual herbal sessions where we meet once and then we kind of touch bases 6 weeks later to see how the herbs are influencing you. But then I also do like full 12-week health coaching programs that I think are really awesome because we get to look at lifestyle and diet and incorporate all of those like holistic herbs in with it as well to kind of impact your overall health in a positive way.
All right. I love that so much. I'll definitely link those. Definitely encourage everybody to reach out because it is so hard to find Catholic herbalists. Whenever I found you, I was like, yes, finally. So yeah, definitely would encourage you to reach out, stay connected. Thank you so much for being on the show, Colleen. It was such a pleasure and just an honor to hear your knowledge and to chat with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.